Good morning, everybody. I am Zoe from Phoenix Coaching, and I am joined this morning by Jack Cooke from Beyond the Brand, one of my favourite video creatives out there. So you are tuning in to Fire 5 at Phoenix. So if you have not joined or watched any of the previous sessions, this is the format. So I invite people in, or people invite themselves in, and they ask me five questions of their choice. Now, the only rule is that they have to ask one question on the month's topic, and this month the topic is on communication, which is, again, all of our guests this month have been in the world of communication. So Helen, as a facilitator, the other Helen is a hypnotherapist, and Nick, who is a guest speaker. So your world of communication is slightly different, communicating through video. So do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so 20 years of making video in all different capacities, whether that's privately when I was younger, just messing about with my brothers in the back garden, or when I first had my first business, right through to working, broadcasting, television broadcasting, right through to now, which is pretty much social media is the go-to, is where everybody should be, is where everybody should be making an impact. I just help businesses build trust between them and their current consumer and the next customer, next client, by putting them out there as a thought leader, or somebody to go to in their industry. I do that via video. A lot of it's storytelling, a lot of it's answering customer questions, making sure that you're on brand, customer focused, and creating consistent content, just to make sure that people know who you are, what you do, and why they should trust from you. And when they trust from you, they buy from you.
True. It's one of those things, isn't it, that everybody knows it's really important, but lots of people still shy away from.
Absolutely. You're vulnerable. You're putting your message out there. You're putting your face and name to it. You're putting your personality to it. All those nooks and crannies you don't like about yourself. You're putting it all out there on video, and I think, for the most, it's all self-consciousness. It's not about what other people are reflecting on. It's what, how self-conscious you are about what you see when you look back at your own videos. And that's the hardest thing for people to get over. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one of the things that certainly took me by surprise when I first started doing this a couple of years back now is that, it's watching yourself on camera as you're talking. So for people who haven't gone live before, whilst I'm sitting here talking to Jack, or whilst I'm on a Facebook Live, I'm actually looking at myself. So it's not talking to an audience. It's like sitting in front of a mirror and having a conversation with yourself, which is, it takes a little bit of getting used to, doesn't it? And you become very aware. So right now I'm becoming very aware of my mannerisms. I become very aware of my facial expressions, how much eyebrows dance around. It's all of those things that you don't necessarily see when you have a normal conversation. So I think that's, for me, that was the biggest obstacle to get over, is just sitting and looking at yourself while you're talking.
Yes. And there's a name that I use, or the title could be used in various ways, called familiarity principle, because we're so used to seeing ourselves in a mirror, and we're so used to seeing ourselves in our normal appearance. So actually, when we see it flipped, it's not the same person you see every day. So you become aware of all those little mannerisms, and you start picking up on all those little bits. I'm very handsy. If you watch my videos, I don't even know I'm doing it, but I'm like this. I'm raving. But people could be self-conscious of those things, and it's absolutely, it's about watching yourself back. But you become used to that. You might not like it, but you become used to it.
Yeah, you do definitely get used to it, and you just get more familiar with how it looks like. And I think eventually, it's for me, it's almost like I see past that now. It's like I see past that I'm talking to myself and picture millions of people and on every word that we say.
I think half the battle with that is when you sort of see yourself back, it's just getting used to it and just doing it constantly. Like I said, you won't ever get used to it, but you just need to be doing it, practicing. And yeah, you kind of do see past that, and you start to see the bits that you do like, or if you can get from A to B and get your message across.
Yeah.
And just be wary that when you're in a meeting, when you're doing a one-to-one, when you're networking, when you're at a business showcase, whatever it is, the way you come across is how people see you anyway.
Yeah.
You're just putting that on camera. You're just not used to seeing it yourself.
Yeah. It's not anything new to anybody else. It's just new to you.
Absolutely, yeah. But I will say that in the long term, the benefits far outweigh your self-consciousness.
Definitely.
Do it. Hate it for as long as you need to hate it for, but just do it. Whatever. Yeah. Eventually, you will reap the rewards. And suddenly people, are calling, they're emailing, they're saying, "Look, I saw your video. What can you do?"
Yeah. Yeah. So, and certainly from my point of view, putting videos and things up on whether it's on the website or whether it's on YouTube, there's a lot of people who sort of have a little scroll through and have a look, because it helps get to know the person behind the websites, and I think it's a really good way of getting that across. So absolutely. Today you are here with 5 questions for me. So 5 questions that I have not seen. So I have no idea what you're going to ask me.
Yep.
No, do you want to hit me with the first question?
First question. This is actually this is kind of going off video entirely, but I think you're a good person to ask this question too. It's a double-barreled answer, I think. Only if you want to answer it, double-barreled.
Okay.
Sadly, I've lost friends to suicide, and mental illness, particularly in this time that we're going through at the moment, is so prevalent. And there's a lot of people, and I had a friend who was a bit sort of too proud. I'm very vocal. When I'm angry, you'll know about it. I don't get angry too often, but when I am, I'm going to tell you I'm angry. He didn't. And I asked him about that one day, and he said, "Well, just keep it bottled inside." Sadly, he's no longer with us. So for me, how does the person that's suffering take that initial step to communicate their emotions, no matter how proud they are, how they're manning up or whatever it was? And also, if you can see the signs, or you feel like there might be something there as a family member, as a friend, how do they communicate with that person?
Yeah, definitely a two-pronged answer, two-pronged question. I might actually answer that in reverse, actually, if that's okay. And in terms of people from the outside looking in, I think we get used to, especially with family and friends, and probably with colleagues as well, we get used to what somebody's norm looks like, what somebody's normal looks like.
Yeah.
So quite often it's us who pick up on the changes before the individual themselves notices that sometimes that there's changes in behavior or changes in how they are with people. So I think it's so difficult, isn't it? Because I think sometimes when we're really busy, and sometimes we get caught up in our own stuff, and so we stop paying quite as much attention. So I think it is, and especially at the moment, but also if you've got friends who struggle and who have dips, even if they've had some really good times recently, if you know that they are somebody who dips quite frequently, is just keeping that check-in process in place. And it is difficult because we all live busy lives, but it is important to check in. So I think it's looking out for those signs and recognizing when you see those changes of making sure that you increase that check-in. From the other side, from people who are struggling, the chances are, as a family member or a friend, 9 times out of 10, when you check in, you might not get a response because that person isn't ready to talk or doesn't feel in the energy for talking. Because that for some people who are really struggling, the energy to try and explain how you feel when you don't understand it yourself is a tough ask. So if you're at a low point and you can't even work out what's going on, the energy that is needed to try and explain that to somebody else who might not understand it. I mean, if you don't understand it yourself, how can you ask a family member to understand it? How can you find the words or the ways to describe it? So I think it's just recognizing that you might message the same person 9 times and it might only be the 10th time that you get a response. And just give people that space, and just give people that space to step into when they have the energy to do that. But no response doesn't mean that they don't want you to contact necessarily. It might just be that they've not got that energy to do that day or at that time. I think one of the best questions to ask as a friend or family member is, how can I support you? What do you need from me? What can I do for you? How can I help you with this? And not give, there's a lot of advice out there at the moment, but there's a lot of things that you should, lots of people telling people what they should be doing, and there isn't a set answer for this. I think it's just leaving your support very open. What do you need from me? What can I do to help you? What can I do? How can I support you with this? And just keep your offers of support really open and keep them frequent, and give people that opportunity to step forward. I think not asking people to, or not putting any pressure on people to explain how they feel can also help, because if they're not working that out for themselves, it's a tough ask for them to work that out for you. I think sometimes just like, asking people, how are you feeling today? Is there anything I can do to help? And leaving that door open for them to, whether they want to call, whether they want to text, whether they want to meet up, of just leaving it very open. For individuals who do find it really tough to talk, I think there are so many different methods of communicating that actually, whether it's a text message or a voice note or a video call, or whether it is just going for a walk with somebody and having that conversation, I think it's just leaving it open to them to do what they feel comfortable with. But I think, like you said, you had a friend who wasn't able to talk that through. I think for some people, just talking about normal things is helpful. Sometimes people, if you think, especially with mental health and mental illness, it is in your head 24/7, so then being surrounded by people with the best of intentions who then want to talk to you about it is just repeating the issue for some people. So actually sometimes just having a normal conversation, talking about normal things, sometimes even talking about your problems, to give them something else to talk about and focus on, or something that's a little lighter, can really help. So I think it's leaving it very much open to the individual, of them sharing what's going on when they're comfortable with how they're comfortable, and leaving that open. You mentioned emotions and things like that. I think if you, from both sides of it, if you know that you have certain, some people call them red flags, if you know there's certain warning signs that you are starting to dip, call them out for what they are, and share that with people around you. Okay, when you see this, tell me that you are seeing it, and I will be open to having that conversation with you. Certainly a lot of people that I work with, especially when I'm working with the family members as well, it's helping them to understand, okay, you recognize, what do you see when the person is becoming unwell? What do you see? And what does the individual see or feel that's different? And helping them to have that conversation, so they have that openness around what it looks like, what it feels like, but also that permission, if you like, of, when you see this, sit me down and let's have a conversation. And I might not want to hear it, but I will sit down and I'll hear you out, and we'll have that conversation, so that I know that support is there, and I've got that reminder of that support. It's exhausting for all people involved, and I think there's a lot of support for individuals who come through it. Not enough by any means, but there is support from there. There isn't a huge amount of support for family members, and helping people to understand how they can support friends and family. So I think just from from the things that I've learned over the years, just keep it open and keep it frequent. And if no response doesn't mean they don't want to hear from you, it just means they might not have the energy to reply to you today, and that's okay. Just give them the space to do that.
I really appreciate you saying a lot of that. It resonates so greatly with me. I mean, I personally suffer from anxiety, and that does lead to depression. I've had some really dark, bad days where I just want to curl up and forget about everything. Fortunately, I haven't got to any bad place in my life. And I think it's, it very much is a taboo subject, still, which is unfortunate. I mean, it's becoming more and more at the forefront of, from employment right through to sort of the household. For me, the biggest deviation of it is, one, I tell my missus I'm having a crap day. Can we just chill? And also, I go through that, and I go through my ups and downs, and my wife is just real chill. Like, she's just so cool about things. Like, things phase her, but they don't phase her to the point she's just like, come on, we're gonna get on with this, or I'm gonna have a day off today, and then tomorrow I'm gonna deal with it. It's like very much like that, without bringing the emotions into it too much. And so she doesn't. She understands, but she hasn't had the experience, should we say? So it's very my best thing I like to do is, if it comes up, let's say on a TV program, or I just go the way they're describing what they're talking about there. That's what I go through sometimes, and point it out so she kind of knows what she can see a description of it. I think the best one as well when it comes to anxiety, if anybody's ever had beer fear, you've had a few too many drinks on a Saturday and Sunday morning, you catastrophize everything. That's anxiety all over. So, I know it's hard for people to talk, but once you do start talking about it, you start to realize that people are actually more willing to listen to you, and actually quite proud of you for doing so. So if that helps somebody, then take that on board, please.
I think one thing that might help, and it's something that I use in coaching calls quite often. I work with excuse me, I work with analogies and metaphors a lot, because I'm quite a visual person, so I tend to work with images and pictures. But one way that is a good way to help describe, sometimes, especially when you don't have the words to describe it, is to use an analogy or a metaphor. So if you were to describe something and say, look, it feels like wading through mud, or it feels like, I have noise cancelling headphones on all of the time, everything's very muffled. You can use an analogy or a metaphor that helps people say, okay, I don't know what you're going through, but when you describe it like that, I know how that feels. I can imagine that. So sometimes it's, a close friend who has their challenges. We talk about, the analogy they use is a wave. Today I'm riding the wave, and it's like, okay, how big is the wave today? Okay, today it's like a freaking tsunami. Okay, but and then other days it's like, okay, I am on my feet, I am on the board, I am riding this wave today. So I think sometimes especially if you are in conversation with people a lot of the time, if there's an analogy that you can find that works for you, and then you work with that analogy. So, okay, today this is we've got rough seas today, and I keep going up. But the next day, okay, I'm up on my feet and I am like Hawaii 5-0, and today is good. Now you can play about with that analogy, that you don't need to find the words to go, okay, today's not a good day. You can go tsunami day, and that's it. They know exactly what you mean. They know where they're going with it, and it means you don't have to find the words and try and describe that. So that might be for some people, who, especially if you're living with someone who has ups and downs, of finding ask them for an analogy or a metaphor that helps describe how they feel. That means then you can understand it a little bit better, and then just use and play about with that analogy to kind of check in on each day.
I think that's fantastic. I think it sort of alleviates the using the words. Sometimes the words, anxiety, depression, anything like that. You don't want to say them. You just don't feel right. It's a chink in your armor.
But words have emotions attached to them, and emotions have a physical response. So if we talk about words like anxiety and depression and nervous and scared and worried and and all of these words, they create a physical response. So sometimes avoiding using certain words that have that feeling or that uncomfortable feeling that comes with it, because we feel it before we know what it is. So when we start to attach the words to it, when we attach the words, then we get the feeling. It's this whole vicious cycle. So sometimes removing the words from the equation can really help in just talking about it in a different way.
That's fantastic, Zoe. That's really good, actually, and that's something I'll move forward with. And if, anybody that's watching this, able to realise that if you've got a mental illness, that's natural. We all have something, some capacity of it, and if you're really feeling down, just hopefully you can find a way to reach out, whichever way it is. Just go do something that you like, and forget about the world for a day, and bring yourself back to somewhere.
Finding your tools that empty the stress bucket is really, really important. But I think also just, again, that reassurance that, a lot of the time it's, it will pass. It will, things do get better, and you hear that from a lot of people who've come through it. So, this time last year I was in this place, but now I'm here, that uncomfortableness, that horrible feeling, it will pass, and things do get better. But I think it's just that recognition that it takes a whole lot of energy and fight to get through that every day, and it's not an easy place for people to be, let alone talk about and try and explain to people.
Which leads me very well onto my second question.
Okay.
Which this is very current at the moment. I'm very much of an advocate. I want everybody to do well. That's just my philosophy in life. If you're a hard worker, or if you're somebody who's passionate about something, or you just want to live an easy life, just go out and do whatever you need to do. But unfortunately, we are coming into a time of unemployment. It's going to be prevalent. There's going to be loads of self-doubt and fear and almost worthlessness that people are going to be feeling that genuinely wouldn't have felt like that, especially if you have a family that you need to take care of, and currently you can't because we're just where we are. Now there's going to be a lot of people going through that. What is it you would say to these people that are just about to embrace this part of their journey of life?
I had this conversation. I actually had two calls yesterday with people who work in HR and recruitment, and so in both conversations, my own redundancy journey kind of came up. Just recalling some of those emotions that I went through, for my redundancy. I think it's the uncertainty at the moment for a lot of people. And one of the things that I talk through a lot is the change curve. So I don't know whether you've ever seen it, but there's the Kubler-Ross change curve. No. And I think it's one of the most helpful tools or frameworks that I have seen. So, and it's like right back to the 50s, was originally put together on the back of research around bereavement and loss. And it's evolved a lot over the years. Different people have used it in different ways, and it's used in organizational change, personal change, bereavement still. But what she talks about is this curve, and you've got at the beginning of the curve that stage one of the uncertainty of what's going to happen, and within that you've got potentially the denial, the anger, the frustration, the blame, all of these sort of emotions that go through when we have that first experience of change. And those might be positive elements in there as well. And then in the middle, you've got this kind of big area where you go through trying to work out what you want, what that looks like. And then the third stage is moving into that new normal. So if you think just even in the last couple of months, through lockdown, we had that stage one. Okay, what is going on? What's happening? You saw lots of those emotions around that at that time. Then we've had this period in the middle where we're all like, okay, well, we missed some of this bit, but we are enjoying some of this bit, and we're looking forward to this bit. And now, as we start to move forward, you can see people starting to try and take control of what they want in their new normal and how they can how they can kind of create that and hold on to that. And it's exactly the same with that job security, and potentially where, you know, some of these conversations are going on in businesses and people don't know what's happening. You've got furlough, you've got people being asked to work part-time, you've got people being told that there's going to be a restructure. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, and with that comes fear. And fear plays out for a lot of people in very different ways. So that first step at the moment is really difficult. So I would say, and you might need to repeat the question back to me if I start to go off track, but I would say,
that's right.
It's focus on what's in your control. Focus on what you know, because the uncertainty is the bit where the fear comes in, because when we don't know, it's that overthinking of trying to think about all of the different options that may or may not happen. And then we create this, what if this, what if that, what if the other.
Absolutely.
It may never happen. So focus on what is in your control, focus on what you know, what you're certain about, and just work with that for the moment. And it's that acceptance mindset of, I don't know any of this, but at some point I will, and when I know what it is, then I will bring that into that area of focus, and that's what I'll look at. But I think, you know, just recognizing where you are in the change curve, and I can share a graphic in the comments section after we finish this. But you know, just recognizing where you are in the change curve. But also, if this is happening to family members, recognize where they are, but also recognize that you're going to be somewhere on that as well, of how you deal with it, because it will impact other people as well. So I think there's, you know, try and identify as much certainty as possible, because it is like quicksand, isn't it? It is quicksand, it is the snow globe. We don't, you know, you can't see the picture, you can't see what you're working with, but there will be certain things that you know, even if it's very, very snowy, because the snow globe's being shaken, you know that there are certain things in there. You just can't see them clearly at the moment, but you know that there are certain things in there. So I think the more you can determine that you know, and the more you can focus on what's in your control, the rest you just need to kind of put on the list and go, okay, when that changes, then we'll move it. But for now, this is where my focus is going to be, and focus on what you do want. You know, there'll be lots of things in there that you don't want. There'll be lots of things in there that you feel maybe quite strongly about, quite negatively about, but focus on what you do want. This is what's happening right now, but at the end of this is what I want it to look like. And just focusing on that future and focusing on what you do want can be really helpful in that sort of positive focus.
That's absolutely. I love the whole change curve as well. Because I've definitely been, I call it a roller coaster actually, but more than a curve.
It does look like a roller coaster. And I think the challenge of it is that you don't just move through the curve. You know, it's not this A to Z kind of framework. You know, you can ping pong backwards and forwards. And the way I describe it for me with my redundancy was, it felt, this is why I say I deal with images, but it felt like I was, you know, those the kind of bungee ropes, you know, that you run at the, you know, like a bouncy castle, but you got to run at the wall and grab the tag. It felt like that. It felt like every time I kind of got a bit close to getting what I wanted, I got yanked back into that stage one. So every time I got near stage 3 of, yay, this is what the future looks like, it's all starting to feel really positive, something kind of pulled me back into that stage 1. So it's I think that's the difficulty, is, you know that actually it's not going to be smooth sailing. Accept that there will be times where you think it's all going to plan and something gets thrown into the mix, but know that eventually you will come through and out the other side.
It's horrible. I've been there myself as well. It's where's my next paycheck coming from? One thing that I've got,
the value and self-worth that you mentioned. I think that's part of the challenge. It's that, you know, for work, whether you are in a career that you're very passionate about, or whether you're there because it it does what it needs to do,
Yeah.
there is that contribution, there's that significance, there's that, you are providing, or that self-worth of playing a role or being a part of something bigger. And so when that changes, we have to re-identify how we meet those needs in a different way. So
I think for me, if I could say anything to anyone now going through that, I always think to myself, we're living in, especially in England and Britain, there is a support network with the government. Might not be the best one, but it can get you through it. You've got free healthcare. These are the things I used to tell myself, like, things aren't going to be as bad as I think they are.
Yeah.
Maybe that comes down to the anxiety, but definitely going on my days, am I going to be out on my backside? Am I going to have no idea? I've got family support, fortunately, but there is a lot of support out there that actually you forget about when you're thinking, I've got no money, no income. The other thing as well was comparing myself to the people that didn't get made redundant within that space. What's wrong with me? Why am I like that?
Yeah.
Your name could have been plucked out of a hat. Your role just is redundant. There is no need for it because we're in an economic, a financial downturn as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will think it's them that's the problem. It's the business, and it's it's the current state of affairs.
Yeah.
It's not,
and it's that reminder, isn't it, that it's the post, not the person. But I do strongly believe that a lot of that is how the organisation manage it, and the conversations that they have with the individuals and you can exit an organisation under those circumstances feeling valued, feeling that you provided a service, that that the time that you were there was recognised and was valued. Or you can leave an organisation feeling like you've just been a pawn on the chessboard, and you've just been moved off. And I think how people have those conversations is key to a lot of how people feel, and how they support people coming out of organisations. Support and the message that you leave that person with when they come out is incredibly important. And I think a lot of people overlook it, or they they lack the skills or the tools to be able to deliver that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's going to be a hot topic for HR businesses now, and they're going in basically saying you've got to make people.
Yeah, but this was the conversation we had yesterday, was that we need to remember right now that this is not happening to people who have had a smooth couple of months. People are already on slightly shaky ground, and we're now adding something else, which is a significant life change to the mix. The well-being of these individuals, it might not be something that redundancy 10 years gave much attention to, but it needs to be, people need to give attention to that right now, because people are already, there's a lot of people that are already on unstable ground. There's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of uncertainty, a lot of pressure. That actually adds something else to that is going to be really tough for some people. So the well-being element is going to be really important for people to take into consideration, I think.
Well, I'm glad you said the word well-being. That kind of brings me to the next question. I think that's in terms of that, if I was going through anything, exercise was always my go-to. Like, it's the one thing I'm in control of. My body, the way I work out, my health. Nobody can take that away from me, without drastic measures, of course. But that's it. And which moves me into, people have been thinking a lot about exercise. Gyms have just opened again. People have put on that what's it? They call it the furloughed stone or something like that, or lockdown stone or something. So people are going to get back into the gym. There's going to be lots of fat diets. And I know you've been on a great story of exercise, fitness, and well-being. I know it's in your family as well. Sports and that. What do you say to people that are basically going to adopt a fad diet, try and lose loads of weight? Because holidays might happen soon as well. People brave enough to get away. Not Spain, obviously, but anywhere else. So what would you say to these people that are going to go, I want the short term, I want to lose loads of weight, I want to do this? And how can they deal with their patience when they actually realize that it's a long-term game?
And you are asking a very impatient person, so it's a good question to ask.
I'm loving it right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I got caught up in that short term, looking for a short term fix, and ended up with a long term problem. So, from I can speak from experience. You can find short term fixes, and it will give you a short term answer, but it will only be a short term answer. And most people who, this is a generalization, but in my experience, the number of people who I've met who've lost lots of weight through a short-term fix have not maintained it, because they're not changing the habits and the behaviors that sit underneath it. So if you can focus on changing the habits and behaviors, then you've got something that is future-proof. You've got something that's sustainable. You've got a lifestyle that is going to bring you those results, but it is going to be slower. So the question is do you want to be on this repeat process for the next 10 years, or do you want to spend some time and put the energy and investment into fixing what creates the problem? Or do you and actually then not have to think about it, not have to think about making good choices, because they just start to become natural. They become natural first choices. Going to the gym or exercising or whatever it is you choose to do just becomes something that you do. You don't think about it anymore. You don't have to invest lots of energy into making it happen. It just becomes something that you do. It's a Monday night, I go to spin. It's a Wednesday, I do this. It's a Sunday, I go for a walk. Whatever that looks like, you don't have to sit there and mentally gear yourself up to making good choices. It just becomes part of your lifestyle, becomes an unconscious habit and behavior that has a positive impact. Ultimately, the quick fixes are going to be there because people make big money off of them. So but they also make a lot of money off of them because you'll be back on it again and again. But for me, I had the short-term fix, but the health implications that I've had. So if you think it's 2009, 2010, we're now 2020, touch wood, physically healthy, but it's only because I have to now consciously manage the things that I know that will trigger that ill health, but the damage that was caused 10 years later is still an issue. So I do feel quite strongly about it. But I also know that I lost the weight, but I didn't change any of the habits and behaviors. So it wasn't until I sat down and started to really work on those through lots of different changes that was when it became my new normal.
I get that. It's a real tough place to be, because we get a bit lazy during the summer, and then you get to sort of September and you realize you got a beach holiday coming up, and you're just like, I'm not going to eat carbs for the next weeks. I'm going to run for 5 hours a day. And I mean, I've noticed in the past, if you look at some of the pictures I've got, I was there. I was very self-conscious because I was a PT as well, and bless them, I had this Italian family, and they're very much, they like a chubby son, basically. So if I put on a little bit of weight, they came to that gym and they told me I was looking healthy in their way. But so I was very self-conscious in terms of, I was just doing all I could to try and keep that weight off. Just eating chicken every night and all of that. But actually now, and during lockdown, I've been one of the fortunate ones where I've actually got back into a great routine. I'm better now than I've ever been, in the last sort of 6 years. So for me, I'm very lucky I've got that sort of routine, but I'm definitely having to hold off on that patience.
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to get slim overnight. I know I'm not going to get a six pack, and that's probably, a hard feat to actually reach. Six pack. It's not natural to have that. But I am feeling a lot healthier. My days are brighter. I'm feeling good. And it is that short term.
That's the difference, though, isn't it? That's the difference between the sustainable lifestyle changes. You feel better. You have more energy. You feel good about what you're doing. that these short-term fixes, most people who are on them don't feel great on them. They don't feel that they have lots of energy. Quite often there's mood changes. For women, big hormone changes. You know, there's lots of things that are impacted. But when it's a slow burner, lifestyle, sustainable change, you know, it is small steps, it is small, consistent steps, but you feel a lot better about it. You can see and you can feel the difference in those changes. I know that, you know, that there's certain activities that make me feel, I've missed spin because I really enjoyed the spin classes, but jumping around in my front room is not for me. So over the last couple of months, I've done a lot more sort of Pilates, body balance, and weights, lighter weights. But I do miss the cardio. I do miss the spin. But I've also enjoyed going for walks. So you know, I've still been active, but it's been a very different active. But I've learned to find other things that I've enjoyed instead. So you know, this is about finding things that work for you, that fit in with your priorities, that fit in with your, you know, your life and your commitments. It's not about doing what everybody else is doing, and it's not about a 6-week, you know, blast and then go back to your old habits and your old behaviors, because you know, that's going to end up with the same results again. So if you want something different, you have to do something differently. So I'm right with you there on the patience, but you know, it's what results do you want? Do you want a longer, healthier life, or do you want, you know, to be a couple of inches smaller on the beach with a whole beach of people that have absolutely no idea who you are and probably aren't paying too much attention to you either?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's that inner confidence is what makes the difference. It's not, you know, and yes, changes to your body can help that. But I also know, having spoken to lots of people who are, you know, looking at that, it's not the size change or the change on the scale that makes them feel more confident. It's the fact that they're investing in themselves. They're, you know, they are showing their body that they value it. They're showing their body that they respect it. They're showing their body that it's important and that their health and longevity of life is important. That's what changes up here. It's not that you look. That is a big part of it, but it's not all of it. You know, when we start to pay attention and we show ourselves respect, we feel better about ourselves, and ultimately that's where your inner confidence comes from, not not a six-pack on the beach with a lot of people who don't pay you any attention and have absolutely no idea who you are. And unless you're getting papped, you know, and you're going to be on the front cover of a magazine. You know, most of it is, you know, what do most people remember about a family holiday? It's not what bikini they wore or what trunk, you know, how confident they felt in their trunks. It's what they did when they were on holiday and the memories of that holiday. Not, you know, it's such a small part of it, isn't it? But it's a bigger picture.
I can't remember the last time my missus said, "Well, you look really good on that holiday." Over, you know, remember that place where we just got like absolutely drunk and ate loads of food? You know, those are the differences in memories.
Nobody says to you, do you remember that holiday 10 years ago where you wore that red bikini and you looked absolutely on? Nobody says that. They say, do you remember that holiday when we did this or when we did that?
Excursion, that memory, everything else.
Yeah. You remember who you were with and where you went.
And I have been on both ends of the spectrum. I've been really big and I've been really small, but I've been muscly. So I've been on everywhere. And actually my middle ground is being able to go out for a few beers and have a kebab, whilst also just working out and eating salads in the week, or eating, you know, a healthy, balanced diet during the week. And where like I actually just live.
Yeah.
Without stressing about anything. Yeah.
And that's
it's good up here as well.
It's finding the balance that works for you, and some people are all about the, you know, being active and eating well because it's important to them and it is a priority to them. But for some of us, that priority, you know, and you know, the same for me. I've been very small, I've been very big, I've been, you know, more muscular. I've eaten to lose weight, I've eaten for strength, I've eaten for you know, very sort of performance kind of, you know, that kind of lifestyle, and actually it's, you know, it's changed over time for me of, okay, how important is this, and what is important right now? And right now, training and food supports my mental and physical health, but that's what it's there for. It's no more or no less important than, you know, making a living and spending time with people. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be in balance now for me, but you know, there have been years in the past where that was the priority. But it's not for everybody. So actually sacrificing, you know, the very lean body, I know how much work it takes to get that, and actually I'm not emotionally invested in having that, so I'm not going to be putting the energy, the physical and mental energy that's needed to make that happen, I'm not going to put into it, because I'm not emotionally invested. But I am emotionally invested in being fit and healthy, so that I can enjoy my life.
Just live a little bit longer. And I think, for anybody watching this as well, I often say I'm too busy to work out, but actually, if I work out, I have a better day. So if I take an hour out, I'm probably going to gain an extra hour in a day somewhere, because I'm more productive. So just go do your thing. Go for a walk. Go for a run. Go do some HIIT training. You know, do whatever, climb a wall, whatever. You know, and it doesn't have to be.
Sometimes we have to force that physical state change, and that also helps with the mental state change too. So definitely important.
Okay, well, you were talking a little bit about sort of what people being sort of not self-obsessed, self-conscious. You know, and I want to go on to this, is a bit more of a personal one for me, really, is imposter syndrome. I think you might be talking about this. I suffer from imposter syndrome. I might not know it because I just put myself out there, I don't care. But I'm very much like, there's a box, that's my imposter syndrome, I can just go over there, let's carry on, because whatever anybody thinks of me. I know when it comes to video, a lot of people don't like putting themselves out, because they feel like if they put their face and their voice to something they're talking about in their industry, and they get caught out for it, you know, the whole world's going to fall apart. And it's again catastrophizing. What would you say to someone that is suffering like that maybe just needs to get over that, or have a little confidence boost in themselves to say, I know what I know, I am who I am, and I'm going to put that out to the world and progress business and life?
I would say that actually imposter syndrome, everybody has it. So even like the top people, top people in every industry have imposter syndrome. Can I throw a question back at you?
Yeah, go for it.
How does imposter syndrome benefit you? Where does it work well for you? Where does it become a positive?
Oh, I like that. I haven't been asked that before. I think it's a driver for me. It's that actually I'm going to tell myself 100 times that what I'm saying might be wrong. Somebody's going to catch me out, even though I know and tried and tested what I'm talking about, the information I'm giving out to the world. But for me, that becomes I'm going to do it anyway. It's empowering to say, I don't care actually. And the only people that I'm conscious of are my competitors, or people, or not even competitors, other people in my industry. I hate the word competitors, other people in my industry. And what does their opinion matter when I'm actually not talking to them? They know what they know. I know what I know. I want to talk to them. That becomes very empowering. So that's what imposter syndrome does for me. Yeah, it really empowers me.
Okay. So it has a positive contribution for you. It has
but I know I'm an exception to the rule in terms of that. But that's years if I get over it.
It's probably so for a lot of people, the imposter syndrome is if you think and I talk through this a lot with people. In fact, I have a ruler here for this purpose. So I talk a lot of people about having things in balance. And so our behaviors also are something that we need to keep in balance. So if imposter syndrome is something overdone, what would be the positive behavior that would sit in the middle if it was in balance?
Okay. What for me?
So, I'm hearing it's something like self-awareness.
Yes, I think. So you mean when it's good and bad,
So,
but in the middle.
so it's too much or not enough, almost. So what's the positive behaviour, or when it's in balance, what's the behaviour that sits in the middle?
Yeah, self-awareness, definitely. Just knowing
Yeah.
what I know and what I'm capable of, and that I get the results, and
Yeah.
actually I can talk about that. So yeah, definitely.
So imposter syndrome for a lot of people is the self-awareness overdone.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
almost like that keeping. So when it's in balance, when it's a positive, it keeps things in check. It
Got
stops
you.
you from running before you can walk. It
Yeah.
stops you from kind of stepping too far out of your comfort zone too soon. So it's almost like that self-preservation
Yeah.
and self-awareness in check. So if it's not enough, then
Yeah.
it becomes that very limiting. It becomes almost the limiting beliefs, isn't it, of keeping yourself in that safe space.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That.
So for me, the imposter syndrome quite often is self-awareness overdone. So you just need to dial back the self-awareness a little bit and just,
Yeah.
like you said, remind yourself that you've got the experience, you've got the education, you know what you're talking about, you've got the knowledge, you've got the skills, you've got the experience, you are in your zone of expertise. Other people will have their zones of expertise, but you are sharing what you know, you're sharing your learning, what you have learned, your skills, your experience, you're sharing with people, for people to interpret and use as they wish. But for most people, the imposter syndrome is that self-awareness, self-check. It's just a little bit more than is needed. So it just needs to be dialed back a little bit. Does that make sense?
Just sum that up. No, absolutely. I always just think it's some sort of crippling fear that people just try and contend with all the time. But actually, it is part of self-awareness. It's really just overdone. I think, and you don't want to be wrong, do you? That's it, and it's protecting yourself almost.
Yeah, I think it's that almost that second check, isn't it? Of okay, who am I? What am I doing here? What do I know? And I think most of us have a bit of an imposter wobble. It's that fear of being found out, isn't it? It's that fear of somebody knowing something that we didn't know and seeing that as a negative. But actually, somebody knowing something that we don't know is a learning opportunity. So again, it's just flipping every negative onto its head of what's the positive. What's the other side of the scale on this? What's the positive for it? But I think imposter syndrome, as uncomfortable as it feels, it's because we're not in our comfort zone. So the uncomfortableness is because we're out of our comfort zone. We're taking that step. So it's just that check and test of, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone. Okay, is it still within reach? Is this, they do it with kids in schools, don't they? That you have your goal and then you have your stretch goal. You have your, like, okay, this is the small step and this is the bigger step. This is, you can push yourself a little bit harder, or you can push yourself a lot harder. And I think the imposter syndrome tends to kick in the quicker or the bigger the step outside of the comfort zone, the bigger or the more we feel that imposter syndrome, just because we're somewhere that's uncomfortable. It's new, again, it's that uncertainty. So I think it's that self-awareness, that check-in of, okay, have I gone too far too soon? Do I need to ease off a little bit? Or actually, do I just need to kind of take a deep breath and go, do you know what, I'm good here. It will get easier. It will feel easier. Just hold that ground, hold that space, because I am where I am ready to be.
Excellent. That's sort of progress, which is what we should all be going through anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. And progress and stepping out of the comfort zone doesn't feel comfortable. So that's, again, it's that self-preservation, isn't it? Wanting to stay safe, wanting to, kind of keep things nice and easy. But it's not where the good shit happens, is it?
No, of course. that's where people stop, and unfortunately, I mean, if I could instill it in people, just click my fingers, and
you go back to what's familiar, you go back to what you know, you go back to what's comfortable.
Thing is, you can always go back there anyway and start again and move forward. but you know, I wouldn't suggest it, but you know, try something is my point in that one is, and I've been very much like that. Just try something, see what happens. If it all messes up in the end, you know. So yeah, it's brilliant. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, imposter syndrome for me, that's always a big one. It's you know, it's a talking point as well. It's an icebreaker as well. You know.
Yeah, well, I think also it's that, I think it adds into that element of coming at things with, you know, that not positioning yourself up here. With imposter syndrome, we tend to see ourselves a lot lower down, which means we're constantly sort of chasing that higher level. Whereas I think if you didn't have that and you see yourself at the higher level, do you look for opportunities to learn, or do you think you're already the guru and you already know everything? So I do think it helps us to keep ourselves in check of being open to, you know, and I don't know whether it's that element of being humble in what you do. It just keeps that ego in check, possibly. Yeah,
I think so. It's I like what you said about ego, because sometimes I'm like, I wish I was just a little bit more arrogant. I like the way I am. I just like a little bit more arrogant. Would I have had achieved more? And when you see it in somebody, and I'm like, but actually, yeah, imposter syndrome sort of makes sure
is it arrogance though, or is it something else?
I always say in average, like Gordon Geckos of the world, you know, the stockbrokers, the cocky ones that can achieve anything and nobody can say no to them, sort of thing. You know, not that I look up to these people, but you know,
It's that confidence, though, isn't it? It's that inner confidence. Yeah. It doesn't matter what anyone says around them; it can impact what's the confidence from the inner confidence. Yeah, it can't be reached by other people's comments or negativity.
Yeah, and you know, I wonder, you know, if that, you know, I'm glad I am who I am. I'm self-aware, aware of myself, and I'm also I have a lot of empathy. I love people. I love good people, and I never want to lose that touch. You know, I want to be sympathetic towards people's situations, good or bad.
But if you had more arrogance, you'd have to give some of that up.
I know, and that's why, you know, it's just one of those dreams. Maybe I watch too many movies. I just want to be like the hero of the story. I could do that in my own way, I know, but but you know, the Bruce Willis, Die Hard. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Okay, so last question. This one is you. You've got 365 days. 29th of the 7th, 2021. Where are you going to be? What's your affirmations? Yeah, this is going to be on YouTube. Let's make some affirmations. Let's do it.
So this time next year. So from a professional point of view, I'm on a coaching course at the moment, so I will be qualified on another coaching qualification. That'll be complete. That'll be done. My aim is to kind of really get out there and get on people's radar. So that audience growth, that is a top one for me. In terms of delivery, where will we be? So we'll have had Thrive 6, then we'll go into 2021. So there'll be another 3 Thrive programs delivered, and lots more one-to-one people that I can get to work with as well. So I think that's probably the professional goals. Personal goals, I will be starting to work away a little bit more, starting to travel a little bit more, obviously Corona dependent, but next year what I would quite like to do is get out and about and visit the UK a little bit more. So just go and visit, you know, I last year when I went and I worked in Cyprus for the month, my whole business went into the hand luggage. So I know it's very doable. So what I would do is just look at some different places in the UK and kind of book 2 nights in a hotel or Airbnb and just go and get a bit of work done, still see clients, still work, but get out and visit a little bit more. And that would be bridging the gap between sort of more global travel later on. But
I love it. Yeah.
So it's my son's last year in college this next academic year. So then he'll be off to university. So
Brilliant. All that freedom to
personal
you.
goals, I think. Just everything else is in a good place. It's all kind of ticking forward. Travel is definitely next on my list of things that I want to be able to do a bit more. So
anywhere in particular?
Kind of South America is definitely somewhere where I would like to go. But also there's lots of Europe that really interests me, just because the very different culture. Anywhere where it's different, different food, different lifestyle, different religion, different languages. Anywhere. And I'm actually looking at the organized expeditions where you do the trekking. And I'd like to do one of those next year. Looking at places like Iceland, or where you can get to do like days of trekking and in an organised trip, because I would be on my own. But and then that will hopefully then give me a bit more confidence to organise them on my own in the future. So definitely more travel.
I don't want to get too deep into Netflix, but check. I don't know if you see it, Zac Efron, Down to Earth.
You're the second person who's recommended that in a week. So that's I will definitely pin that one. Okay.
We're gonna, definitely our goals and ambitions, and I've done quite a bit of traveling, but we need to some other time just have a good conversation about travel and stuff like that.
And have you got goals for the next 12 months?
Yeah, so realistically, like, everything's going to go remote with me, so I want to have, and I've already got quite a substantial batch of remote clients. I want to get that to 20 regular clients each month, so that's 365 days. And my website, I really want it to be a resource of, because there's a lot of people that ask me a lot of questions that just, it's not worth consulting on, it's not worth giving people, so turning that into, a resource where, you've got that question, okay, head to my website, check that out. I'm really trying to build a portfolio of work there. And hopefully online courses. I want to turn some of my old workshops into online courses. People badger me about doing it. Just get on with it, Jack. I love the in-person, but not everybody can do that. And also, I got global clients if I put it all online. So let's see where that goes. 365 days. That's what I'm working towards.
I think one of the things somebody said to me quite early on is it's making it more convenient for people to work with you, and so that's and I said exactly the same. That making the website an online resource. I think there's over 100 blogs on there now, and like short videos and things like that, because not everybody wants coaching, but some people just need a little bit of support in a particular area. Just having a worksheet and a short video for a couple of quid on there helps people solve their problems, but they don't need to connect with me necessarily to be able to do that. So it's a way of passing the information on, isn't it? Without you can do that with a lot more when it's online rather than booking in calls with people.
Precisely.
As well. And some people like to do it from a distance. Not everybody wants to spend time with us. But
I can appreciate that, and he's just catering for the masses. It's not even like hopefully I'll make money, and I'm fortunate in that, but it's not a massive money making thing. It's because there's a lot of things that I know people need, and it will help them in their life and their business. So if I can offer that out to the world, then I'm doing my bit, and hopefully everybody prospers. That's what I want for everybody. All the good people in the world. There are people, but all the good people. That's it. Brilliant.
Oh, what great questions.
Thank you. I've really excited about them, and you gave me some great answers. Really just made me think about a lot of things as well. So you're just like an absolute box full of knowledge, aren't you? Or good vibes as well. But you come at it from an emotional level rather than sort of whilst you have your strategies, and I know you're good at that, I know you work with clients, you do a great job with them, you definitely come at it from an emotional level, which is what all anybody wants. It's not, you're going to take my money, give me a few wise words and kick me out the door. You're yeah, I've known you for long enough now to know that you're compassionate, you care, empathy.
Yeah.
That's what comes first, and it feels like it. So you've done a
Oh,
great
thank
job. You've done an
you.
amazing job.
Oh, it's very kind. Thank you so much for your time today. I will pop links of how people can contact you and see your very cool video. I love the one with Mario. So we'll put
Brilliant.
some
Thank
links
you.
in so people can connect to you who are watching this back. But thank you so much for your time and amazing questions. And so next week we move into a new month. New topic. So we go into a month of relationship with yourself and others.
Wow.
And Doreen is first up. So I am
Amazing. I love her. She's brilliant.
what questions, because I'm talking, self-improvement, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Doreen's a huge reader and like very, very kind of interested in lots of areas. So I'm really interested in what questions she'll come with. So I'll post the link so people can see when the next one is. And this will go out on YouTube, IGTV, and we'll chuck it up on LinkedIn as well so people can cross-connect. But thank you so much for your time. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Good luck with all of this. Amazing.
Thanks, Jack. Take care.